Good evening, I'm Jose Cardenas. Tonight on Horizonte, we'll talk about a forum held in the Valley to talk about Arizona's education funding plan and its impact on K-12 funding for Latino students, and learn about a group created to fill the gap of networking events among Latino communication and marketing professionals. All of this coming up next on Horizonte.
Funding for Horizonte is made possible by contributions by the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station.
Thank you for joining us. This week, the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce hosted a forum to talk about the state's education funding plan and its impact on K-12 funding for Latino students. Joining me to talk about the state's education plan and the forum are David Garcia, ASU Associate Professor with Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College and former candidate for State Superintendent of Public Instruction, and Rosie Lopez, founder and president of the Arizona Hispanic Community Forum. David, Rosie, thank you for joining us on Horizonte. A lot of news in the last few days about education funding. And as I understand the forum, it covered a bunch of different topics. Give me just, David, an overview of what was discussed.
Sure. Well, first off, thank you for having me back. I appreciate it, Jose. The forum yesterday was about the impact of school funding in general for Latino students. And the forum covered the settlement, which is getting a lot of attention right now. But we got to keep in mind that the settlement is only a very small part of the entire school funding picture for Latino students here in Arizona. And so the forum went beyond just the settlement to talk about other major fixes and things that need to happen in the school funding system in order to serve our Latino students best.
And the forum was sponsored by the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Exactly right. Yes.
The panelists and the presenters were?
Pearl Chang from Expo Arizona, myself, Jaime Molera, and Rosie here.
And I understand, Rosie, that Paul Luna of Helios gave kind of an overview of the state of Latino education in Arizona. And if you can summarize that, what did you say?
Well, it was very disheartening to see that our kids are not graduating from the university at the rate that we really need them to graduate.
Are they even getting in?
They are getting in, but the numbers diminish as they go along, and they're not even graduating at 6 years, in. So it's a very serious situation that we have, and Helios is focusing mostly on higher ed and making sure that the students succeed in college and graduate from the university. But the truth is that that's not happening right now, and he was bringing it to our attention. He also had another forum at another time and place, and he said this is a call to action for all of us to take note and to start doing something about this, because they really are kids that are going to be very much part of the economy, and they're not skilled, they're not ready, and the jobs are waiting, but there is no skilled labor to take place, there with our Latino students. So it's something that's very serious.
And David, I know that the Chamber has come out in support of the settlement that was reached. Did other people express opinions on whether they were for or against it?
I think there was general agreement for the settlement. In many ways, it has a lot of good things going for it. I think the base level funding is very positive. I think going to the State Lands Trust is more complex than it needs to be. We got to remember that what the legislature passed was to take something to the voters to approve. So there's still some important steps to take. But I believe everyone there agreed with the idea that this is only the beginning. Got to remember that the settlement is paying back a debt that the state has owed to our public schools now for multiple years. It's not new dollars in terms of new money going to schools. And we still have a lot of work to do if we're going to fund our schools in a way that's going to meet the goals of folks like Paul Luna and the Helios Foundation, and also in a way that's going to be equitable for our Latino students.
So Rosie, David said everyone agreed that this is only a start, and I assume you would agree with that, but you also think it's a bad start.
Yeah, no, I didn't agree with that, and I think I may have been a minority in the crowd there. I don't know, because I don't know what the crowd wanted, but I do know that some of the legislators voted for it, in particular Senator Catherine Miranda.
She crossed party lines to support the governor.
She did, and she said she wanted to make sure that the lawsuit was settled. and that was one way of doing it. But I say this, I like the idea of the base level being increased and that it included inflation. But what I didn't like was that that they would touch into the state land trust, and that it would take away some dollars from there, and I felt that they would diminish the dollars and that the principal would be run down, because I think it was 6.9 that they're saying that they're going to pull out of there for the next 10 years. And the third thing that I was, there's another thing that I was concerned about. It's also the special election. It's going to cost about, what, $9.6 million, where we could put that into education. They could have had a special session just to put money in to education with a surplus that they had, but they didn't do that. The other thing is that if the revenues went down and things were not looking good with a recession, or just that sales tax were, taxes were going down, then that would undo the whole deal. That means that they would not get what was agreed upon, and that is a real concern for me. So I said publicly there that I would not vote for it. Although I did vote for the overrides in the bond election with Phoenix Union, and I always vote for them, but I would not vote for this one simply because it would affect other things, and the lawsuit would be nil after that, and I don't know where it would end up if we had a recession or the sales tax revenues would go down.
So I don't want to spend too much time on it. It's very important, but I know the forum covered other topics. But Rosie, does this mean that organizations such as yours, the Arizona Hispanic Community Forum, will actively oppose and campaign against the proposal?
Well, I hope so. I don't know how much money we have, and no one's come forth to say, we're going to do a strategy and get out the vote to oppose it. I do not know that, but if there is a move on that end, then I would be glad to participate and see if we can kill it. But and because I know that the Democratic legislators voted against it, so I do know that there were only 3 votes that came from the Democrats, and so I think, well, maybe there's a move out there. I don't know if there's a movement out there to do that. That remains to be seen. It's just so recent,
And David, a settlement takes 2 sides to agree, and one of the sides that did agree is the school boards and the school districts and kind of the natural allies of the Democrats. Do you see any real organized, strong opposition to this ballot measure?
I don't. I think that the education, if a community is going to, by and large, get behind it, many of the major principles, as you mentioned, were at the table. But they're going to remind voters over and over and over again that this is just a very small part of a bigger and longer journey we need to accomplish here in Arizona. I heard that from at least the things I read from these major education organizations. You got to remember that we're looking at a very small relative increase here. It's not going to move up our national rankings in any significant way.
248.
Yeah, we'll move up a point maybe.
Does that put us ahead of Mississippi, or are we still?
That
used to be the measure, right?
It used to be the measure. I think we're becoming the measure in many cases, and it doesn't address that issue. It doesn't address the issue of what kinds of new dollars need to come in to public education to meet the goals.
What does it do for the Latino population, school-age population?
Specifically for Latinos, I would argue nothing particular for Latinos, because remember, this is a base.
Nothing particular in the sense that it has no impact on them, that it doesn't have on other students?
It's per student, and every student in Arizona is going to, by and large, get the same amount. And so I don't think that for Latino schools, their impact or their investment in this is, and for Latino communities, that their investment or engagement in this should be any different than any other community. Issues, though, that I do think are important are issues of equity, and those still need to be addressed. There's a discussion going on, for example, now with the Classrooms First group that is meeting. They're debating a poverty weight, which would
and this is the governor's advisory group?
The governor's advisory group on school finance. I know they are debating a poverty weight, meaning that there would be additional dollars generated for students who come from low-income households. that would have a disproportionate impact for Latino students because many of our Latino students live or come from community or homes that are low
So
income.
there'd be a benefit there.
And there would be a benefit.
And I want to
there.
come back and talk about the Governor's Advisory Committee, but the other thing that was discussed, Rosie, was the forum was being held the same day as all these budget overrides, most of which, despite opposition from the County Republican Party, passed.
Yes, and I thought that was a good thing because, as David said, it's not enough money and it doesn't solve the problem, but at least they have enough money to maybe to pay the teachers higher salaries, maybe to help out with the classrooms, and of course the infrastructure, they really need it for that too. So I'm glad that the overrides and bonds passed throughout the state except for, I believe 3 districts. And I think that was a good thing. They need it desperately.
David, as I understand, you have mixed feelings about bond overrides, not because the school districts don't need the money, but because of the message it may send to the legislature.
I do have mixed feelings. You got to remember that in general, statewide, about 40% of money comes from the state and about 40% from local sources. So local, either primary or secondary property tax valuations and taxes are a huge contributor to K-12 public education. And what I see happening often, and if you look at the statewide trend, the state contribution has been going down and local contributions have been going up. It means that our local communities have been taking on more of a burden. And what I see happening, and it's a bit bittersweet, is these are great victories for schools and school districts in need, but my concern is that it can take pressure off the legislature to take action and put more state money in because folks at the local level, and let's be clear who did it, these were mostly parents knocking on doors to their neighbors to help their own schools. When they pass these local bonds and overrides, it takes some pressure off the state to put additional money in at that level. And that's why I think it's important that all the energy that was put into getting the settlement agreed at this point too, and for all the parents out there that have worked very hard on local bonds and overrides, the next step is to make sure that their good effort doesn't go for naught and to keep focusing on the legislature to increase the state proportion.
Now going back, I'm sorry, Rosie.
Jose, I really agree with that. They have depended on parents and sometimes parents that can't afford too much, you know, they have, to them it's high property taxes even if they live in low income areas. And so I really think that the legislature has been negligent in paying up, you know, state dollars that really, it's their role to really do that, to fund the schools. But they had put the burden on the taxpayers, and in particular in our poor areas, that they have put a lot of burden on the poor and the folks who can't afford very much, and the property taxes keep going up. And I agree with David completely on that.
That's an important point.
It is.
In the next few weeks, putting out a report specifically on school finance for Latino communities. And we looked at property valuations. And in our highest concentration Latino school districts, these are school districts that are 75% or above, in some cases, compared to school districts that are less than 25% Latino, predominantly Anglo, in some cases, those are our high Latino school districts, the property value is 30% of their neighboring districts, 30%. That means that these communities, our Latino communities, need to tax themselves at a higher rate in order to get less yield for their, and they're doing it, by the way, they're passing by and large bonds and overrides, particularly overrides at higher rates. I think it shows tremendous effort on behalf of our local communities. However, it is an uphill climb when you're working with a tax base that is only a fraction.
So is the solution more state funding?
Yes.
State funding is much more equalized. And in particular, also keep in mind that the most equitable funding, meaning those in need who get the most, is federal funding. And we're a state that is always pushing buttons at the federal level, but for our Latino communities, they get a disproportionate amount of federal dollars.
And on that point, you had mentioned to me off camera before we started the show that there's another proposal that might be coming out of the Governor's Advisory Committee that may take away what the first proposal you mentioned, the poverty rate, may give to Latino students.
I'm not certain it's a proposal. I will tell you that some of the conversation I've heard is that when you look at federal dollars, because low-income areas get more. The question is, should that be offset with any kind of local contribution? And in my opinion, that it would go against the intent of our federal dollars, which is not to supplant, but to supplement our neediest communities. And it is only with those additional dollars that our neediest communities get more to spend for those students who have the highest needs.
So a lot more to talk about on that score. Rosie, the Arizona Hispanic Community Forum, of which you were one of the co-founders, has always had education as a primary focus. And recently you conducted a couple of forum sessions for parents, for educators, and so forth. Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, because our students are not succeeding the way we want them to, we decided that we had to have a summit of our own, Latinos Summit, and we call it a symposium. We had one for educators and we had one for parents, and they were both very successful. And what the objective was here is to get their recommendations as to what they wanted. In other words, everybody else says, okay, this is what's good for Latinos, but we're saying, okay, what do we think is good for Latinos? We are the Latino population. We know our culture. We know our kids, and the parents know their kids. So what do we have to say about what is good in education for our children? And it was so successful that everybody was so engaged, and we talked about a lot of recommendations, and one of them was early childhood development and high-stakes testing, prison to the school to prison pipeline. We had many others, and culturally relevant education, the curriculum, so that we could talk about, let's say, like ethnic studies, those types of things, something that we could relate to, and that the students, it shows that the students are really, succeeding in school when they feel that they're part of the curriculum and that they see themselves in the curriculum.
So if somebody wants some information, we're almost out of time, but if somebody wants some information about those forums and the results and stuff, how can they get it?
Well, we have a website, and it's AZHCF, and .com, and they can go in there. We don't have the document ready yet. We just had this parent conference 2 weeks ago, so we're going to put that document together. And our Latino legislators, Senator Catherine Miranda, Senator Martin Quesada, and Representative Juan Mendez, they're going to be working on writing some bills for us with respect to these recommendations.
So a lot of action.
A lot of action to come.
At a lot of
and at the
places.
first day of the session, we're going to have that document for the legislators on their desk, for all legislators.
So we'll have you both back to talk about it. Thank you so much for joining us on Horizonte.
Thank you.
Colectivo is a group that was organized to create a vibrant networking community for marketing and media professionals interested in the Hispanic market. Joining me now to talk about the group is Joshua Molina, one of the co-founders of Colectivo. Joshua, welcome to Horizonte.
Thank you.
I've read a little bit about you and your co-founders. All three of you have very fascinating backgrounds. Just give me kind of a thumbnail sketch of the three of you, what you've done in the past, and what was it that made you decide we got to do something here to attract other people like us and share ideas?
Right. We started, it was just Eric Diaz and myself. We met at his location. He owns a co-working space here in Phoenix. And he was referred to me at a conference that I went to called Latism, Latinos in Tech and Social Media. He actually had attended the conference the year before I attended in 2013 in New York, and when I tried to explain we should do something like this in Phoenix, they said, there's somebody in Phoenix you should talk to, and that was Eric.
And both of you have backgrounds in journalism, right?
Well, my background is in journalism. I studied journalism, worked for a few different stations, and then moved into marketing and PR.
And that includes CNN, NBC, and then local television affiliates.
Yes, local television in Phoenix. I worked for the CBS affiliate as well. Eric's background is in marketing. He co-owns a multicultural marketing agency called Nativa. And so, we had similar backgrounds. We met and decided, we should start a Latism chapter here in Phoenix. When we spoke to Latism, they weren't keen on having a chapter, so we said, you know what, we should do our own thing. And that's how Colectivo started. Eric knew Christian Enriquez, who was a co-founder of One Voice Radio and Latino Rebels, and said, let's get together and let's start this idea. We wanted to keep it simple. It's actually based on an event that Eric attended out of state in a different state, which was called Programming Wednesday. So these programmers would get together and have these very simple events, free to the public.
And when you say programmers, you're talking about
web developers.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's based on the same concept where where they get together, have some drinks, some food, and learn something about their market. So we said, we can do this once every 2 months. Very simple concept, but the need was that we wanted to meet other Latino communications and marketing professionals like ourselves. We attended a lot of events for marketing professionals or journalism professionals, but we sometimes were the only brown face in that group. So we wanted a venue where we can all get together and learn about these things and really have a good conversation.
So you started this, about a year ago?
About a year and a half ago. From concept to conception, we're just a few months out. Our first event was September of 2014. So this last September, we had our anniversary event, which was great. It was actually just across the street at the Civic Space.
And how many other brown faces have you found at these events?
It's a great thing because we actually have some regulars, and we have a lot of people that come to some events because they're interested in, well, maybe you come to an event, 2 events out. We want to reach out to as many people as possible.
And as I understand it from talking to you earlier, it's not just brown faces that are showing up. I mean, you've had people who are interested in Hispanic marketing and they're not necessarily a Hispanic background.
That's exactly right. What we initially, we wanted to get Latino professionals together, but we decided to expand that because we saw a lot of non-Latinos that were attending our events that were very interested in the same topics and meeting the same people that were coming to our events. And we also realized that a lot of people in different companies want to target Latinos either in marketing, in journalism, in communications, and really want to know the right way to do it. There's a wrong way and a right way to reach the Latino audience. And we see that in commercials, we see that in billboards. Some are cringeworthy and some are really well done.
So the meetings themselves are a mixture of networking and some substantive content?
Absolutely. So every event has either a panel or a speaker that actually talks about a specific issue that affects the Latino market. So for example, we had an event last November. We brought over the former president of the National Association of Hispanic Journalists, who actually is a senior director of multiculture at ESPN. He spoke about diversity in the newsroom and how it's important for a diverse newsroom to tell the right stories. An event that we actually have in a couple weeks, we are bringing Latino marketing directors from big brands that have a local presence here. One from Henkel, one from Cox Communications, and they're going to talk about their large-scale marketing to Latino audiences.
And Josh, we're almost out of time.
Sure.
Where will that event be?
That event will actually be at Co-working on 15th Ave. It's a co-working spot just north of Osborne on 15th Avenue.
What day and time?
November 18th, 5:30 p.m. There'll be free food and drinks, just like every event. All our events are free to the public, and we just invite anybody that is interested to come.
Sounds terrific. Thank you so much for joining us on Horizonte to
Thank
talk
you.
about it. Last week, an initiative called 100,000 Opportunities was held at the Phoenix Convention Center. 2,000 young people had the opportunity to apply for jobs with various companies. The initiative is led by Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz.
We've been in Arizona as a company for many, many years. We do well here. We have a partnership with ASU. As you said, 1 in 5 kids. This is an opportunity to come here and make a difference in these lives. And I think, unfortunately, the large number of these kids, as you're going to see today, are Latino and Hispanic, who are literally being left behind. And I think we feel strongly as a company we can make a difference. This is not necessarily about the bottom line of Starbucks. Although, if you read the recent study, it will cost the American taxpayer about $100 billion a year for these 6 million youth to be not in school and not in work because of the ancillary issues that are societal.
That's our show for tonight. I'm Jose Cardenas. Have a good evening.